Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Thank you for tuning in, and this is Last Chance Radio. Last Chance Radio with David Benjamin. Brought to you by Procter & Gamble one day, maybe, if I'm lucky. And also, if I'm lucky one day, I had a sound man also. How are you tonight? 10/29/19. It is October 19th. Oh my God, no, it's not. It is October 30th. I'm sorry. My eyes are going. But don't worry about that. We're going to have a great show for you tonight. Listen, thank you for being here. I am going to pretty much start every show like that because I am grateful that you're here. Without you, I got no one to talk to. And I like talking to people. I hope you will feel like your time has been well spent and that you're rewarded for the expenditure of your time. If after this show and you've watched some of the other shows and you liked them, and I'm not going to start in with the whole panhandling routine, but I just literally, and I'm going to tell you about it in a minute, but literally if you go over to the website that we just got up, you couldn't give us money if you wanted to because it's just not set up yet. It will be. And in time, if you're so inclined, we would appreciate it because we are going to remain a viewer supported channel. We respect you that much that we feel like we should live and die by what you want to hear, and do we bring it to you, and do we succeed at that? And if we don't, then we should go do something else. And I've kind of made that one of our post holes, so to speak. Anyways, we have an amazing show for you tonight. Amazing. And I wish I could say it was amazing because it was great, but we know how things are going on in this country, and they're not all that great. I mean, there are some things that are great, of course, and really, the things that are great in this country always come back to those same things. If you look throughout time and history, which you know by now, if you've watched or listened to me at all, that I'm a history buff, and in and throughout history, it's been those individuals who go out and do special things in the world who make the world a better place. Seriously, my reason for doing this is there is a hole in the news coverage out there today, and it's not fair to the public. It's my intent to fill in this giant black hole. They come in and they drop headlines on us like, breaking news, atomic weapon goes off, right? Hopefully never, but the idea being, bang, get your attention. And then on the back end of that, they leave us flat. They don't give us anything. And I guess that's part of the reason why I was really into and decided that I was going to do this. But again, we have a really big show tonight because the stuff we're going to be talking about tonight is stuff that you probably have not heard anywhere at all, not even in headlines or anything else. And the thing that we're gonna do, and I want to tell you I want you to go and please check out the website. Okay, it's Last Chance Radio, LastChanceRadio.com. Grab yourself a beverage. I'd like to kick one back myself right now, but I'm telling you a story, and I've been told I'm a decent storyteller, so let me tell you one. And while we go on this ride and we start to hear a story, it's a story unlike one you'd find in Disney World, even on a white night, if you know what I mean. We could almost do a telethon on tonight's subject alone. Seriously, I mean, I don't know if we'll do this in one or two segments. Not because it moves slow, and definitely not going to let it move slow on my part, but because the people involved are so powerful and so wealthy that they can, and we've all learned, and as we know for sure now in the United States, law is for sale to the highest bidder who can afford the highest paid attorney. And I don't know what goes on behind those robes and closed oak wood doors, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to accuse anybody of anything. And I'm going to start out this show also by saying this. I need to put in a disclaimer here. There are some things I may say tonight that someone might want to run down the block yelling, so-and-so said this. David Benjamin said this. Okay, well, let me make this really clear, folks. There are people who talk to me, and they can't talk to me on the record, and I can't repeat exactly what they say. Otherwise, I'm blowing the trust, and I could get them in trouble, and I'm not going to ever do that. Never. However, there are things going on beyond which we are being told, and I'll bet you're getting that same impression just watching the same news that I was just talking about. So, again, I'm going to have to keep pounding myself back into the story, even though I tend to divert and deflect sometimes into other areas. When we manage to come out the other end of this Death Star that's blowing up in slow motion, maybe we'll have enough information to spread around to others, like the awesome Jedis that we all are. We will have, these droids are not the ones you're looking for. These are not the droids you're looking for. Thank you. And they walk away. The idea of oil being in the Mideast is, let's face it, it's not even remotely new. It doesn't even kind of blow anyone's hair up at all. But for a lot of us who work our cojones off and can't get to the news as much as we'd like, firstly, this could be your place then, because we're going to tell you a story. And all good stories have to have characters, good characters if it's going to be a good movie. All right, so I told you to get a beverage. Did you get something to snack on? Should I talk louder as you run to the kitchen? Don't you dare go anywhere right now. Wait a minute. Oh boy, does this one have characters? This one has characters like we may never see again in our lives, folks. We have to begin somewhere, and like I said a moment ago, let's start at the center. So, I mean, when I was talking about universal kind of being Death Star and whatnot, so I thought of a sun. But then I said, I should refocus that. Something about food, what's it, And then I thought to myself, some wacko out there is going to be saying, this is at the center of your food. It's Soylent Green, blah, blah, blah. So just don't, okay? I'll have to ban you for life. I won't. But who are the players here? Who are the characters? And now let's get our pickaxes and our shovels out together here. We are the Jedi round table. We need to dig. We need to together pull this stuff up out like bad roots and fix it. To be honest, folks, I don't know, because this right now where we're living, it doesn't resemble the America I grew up in, where we looked up to officer friendly, trusted our preachers, coaches, and found it a kind of honor to meet someone who we were told by our mother or father to address them, yes sir, yes ma'am. We knew that they were someone special. And if you didn't do that, usually your head got bop on the way out the door. Now, the kids think sir and ma'am are uncool these days. And you know what? I thought of this right when I was reading it, and I was like, I heard my mom and my dad bitch about the same thing. And the only cool thing is the same thing we saw coming up, just in a crummier version. Just in a what I'm getting at is the close of the '60s were really cool, and the music of the '60s were really cool. And now we're in 2000 something, and the music pretty much sucks. Anyways, I have to move on because I'm going to get into telling things about Hendrix and Daltrey laying on the floor having seizures over the new music. Let's get to it. I keep saying we're going to get to it, and I keep wandering off. We have a White House, an administration whose foreign policy was run by a couple of folks, and you see how quick they come and go. Like they need a spinning door at the front, whatever you call that thing, the revolving door. Yeah, revolving door. The most of us, one of the most important, but not to us, of course, was Jared Kushner, and we, the people, are not done with him yet by a long shot. We have a State Department being run by a 33-year-old cobweb-encrusted ATM that got left in a gas and beer joint that was armed robbed 300 times. And it's a little damaged, but seriously, think about it. It, right now, is what? Running part of our government? This is insane. How much more insane can we deal with before the guy here watching here right now just starts talking in mumbo jumbo? Because I can feel myself. Anyways, I need to get off it. This looks like it's going to be one of those nights where I have to keep roping myself in. But who's running our State Department? Well, Pompeo. But why does his name remind me of Pompeii? You know, the place that buried a civilization with molten lava. Ugh. It's not a thing that we want to think of as where we're headed. That's not. Anyways, we haven't even gotten to the beginning yet. But wait, when you hear this, onion start to peel back, and that's kind of what I've started to see it like too. This onion is starting to be de-skinned. You'll be astounded. And you know what though? Just to keep my 6 o'clock, like I said, out of the attorney's sights, I'm going to say this again. None of this is conspiracy theory. Why? Because if something's true, it's not a conspiracy. However, if you'd like to sue me, call my girl. We'll do lunch, and you can disprove my theory. Then we'll talk. We're off to the races, folks. Here we go. I certainly hope you're ready here. Genie Energy. Who, pray tell, is at the center of this Tootsie Roll? Who's Genie Energy? Genie Energy is a energy company that has been both bought up by people, and it has bought up other people. It's a holding company. It's one of those flagship type operations that the wealthy create in order to subsume other entities in order to acquire the wealth of their creations and inventions. The same kind of thing that we've been yelling about China doing. You know, we're going to circle the wagon, so to speak. In other words, we're going to drop some more napalm here, and we're going to get it burning here in a second. Let's just show folks. Well, I don't know if I have an image of this ready to go or not, but let me ask you a question. U.S. military. This is in the headline news. U.S. military protecting Syrian oil. Wait, why? Why would we protect Syrian oil right now? Did Assad? I mean, you know who I'm talking about, the Syrian guy. Did he ask us to protect Syria's oil? If it needs protecting, can you be more specific and tell us who from and why exactly? And yes, I'm going to slip off the tracks purposely here from time to time to show you how convoluted these stories have become. I only wonder if the convulsions are intentional, coming from that wholesale ineptitude known as the Trump administration, or we, the American people, are so deserving of the short blue bus ride to school that we literally fall for anything. There comes a point, folks, where we need to, like, when someone lies to you, don't you remember when someone lied to you and person's lying? Now everyone gets lied to and goes, I don't know. Listen, I want to know, why did the administration just take the Kurds and throw them under the bus? Say, man, we're leaving, see ya. After being as loyal as the most loyal puppy on the block could ever be. So we're going to turn our backs on the Kurds and in the same breath say, oh, but we're going to go over here and protect some mysterious component of Syria's oil. You smell something? Smells like a lie, folks. A while back, Donald Trump, in his wisdom, powers, and great genius of the stable, etc., thought it would be another great genius of the stable idea if America recognized that the U.S. Embassy in Israel should be located in Jerusalem. Anyone remember that? Mostly people said that that's going to make the Palestinians and the Arabs mad. Aloha back snack bar, or whatever they say these days out in PDS land. I'll leave that there. But they're always fighting about something. Leave them alone. They're all kill each other. It might as well, this week. So we moved the embassy. So after all, what's the big deal, right? Well, let me tell you what the big deal is, folks. It sets a precedent. A precedent for what? What's the precedent? The precedent's the first time you do something, and it allows the door to remain open to do it again. The idea behind precedents is that when one comes up, you better be doggone sure you're willing to allow it to open, because chances are it's going to stay open after that. Perhaps a president, not a president POTUS, but a precedent, a first time thing that happens, to recognize Israel's right to not only claim parts of the Golan Heights, but the entire Golan Heights. Still, really, who cares, right? It's not in our neck of the woods. First thing I thought of when I saw this was Shell Oil. It's the same type of nonsense the GRU and the rest of Putin's mercenary cyber warfare units are already putting out there. It's already starting on Facebook big time. I've seen it because I go over there to look. And I come back to Twitter and I go, well, at least Twitter seems a little bit more intelligent. And I don't want to make that judgment either, but, this is the convulsions I was talking about earlier. But don't worry. We'll have a full-on grand mal seizure by the time we're done here tonight, folks, because you guys might trip out a little bit, because it's a doozy. Let's get to the center of this black hole sun. And by the way, if you've ever heard the song Black Hole Sun, won't you come? If you look back in history also, Black Hole Sun was a reference to Nazi occultism. Just thought you might not be interested in it. But we needn't know all the secret handshakes yet, or what 1488 stands for, or the OK fingers making a power symbol. I'm sure we'll hit on all this crap as time goes by and we do more and more shows. And hopefully you're with me together at this Jedi roundtable for our intelligence briefing. Meanwhile, who is Genie Energy? Okay, boys and gals, y'all settled in? I told you it was coming. We're getting to the juicy. If this is your first time with us here at Last Chance, you might want to cover the kids' eyes. I'm just kidding. We're not going to cuss or carry on like that. Um, but we might want to watch our language when you start seeing the things coming out over the next few seconds. The president, and I'm going to pull up the text here. I don't mind you seeing what I'm reading from. I've got nothing to hide here. I'm not a bright enough man to remember all of this stuff. You know, like I have a photographic memory. It's not happening. But like I said, watch your language here because it's going to get a little warm. The president of the subsidiary of Genie Energy Strategic Advisory Board. The president, first of all, of that is Effie Itam. Dick Cheney, the former vice president of the United States. Rupert Murdoch, media mogul and chairman of News Corp. James Woolsey, former CIA director. Larry Summers, former head of the U.S. Treasury. Bill Richardson, former governor of New Mexico. Ex-ambassador to the United Nations and United States Energy Secretary Michael Steinhardt. Jacob Rothschild, yes, one of those Rothschilds, even though I know some people go, oh, it's got to be the Jew. You know how that goes. Nonsense. Kill it. Just stop it right there. I don't want to hear about it. And Mary Landrieu, former U.S. Senator from Louisiana. Very nice lady, actually. I met her once. This is not everyone. Rest assured that there are other people out there who are getting paid off for doing things right now. Like Netanyahu, Trump is probably getting a slice of Genie, and there's no doubt that the Kushner family is getting a slice of this pie as well. It's important to not only know these folks' names, but it's important by reference to their job or former job title that they held. We haven't begun to divulge all the players in the field yet that this story is about, and I wonder about now that this may be a broadcast we need to split into a couple of parts simply because of all the players and all the moving parts, and it's really I'll have to a friend of mine, Ann, said it wouldn't be a bad idea to do that either. I mean, I bounced things off all my friends, and she just said, just beg their indulgence for doing that. And I'm begging your indulgence because I want to be able to bring you a firm story that makes sense by the time you walk away with, by the time you walk away with the story, I want you to be able to feel like you got it in your pocket and you could share it with other people. So before we go forward in the story, in other words, talking about today and what is happening right now, I think it's worth a moment to do some more ground prep, which, if anyone's out there, is military ground prep is a lot of times a barrage of artillery and then the troops going. We're laying out of the previous intel set so that we are all more or less on the same page. The quicker you, me, and all of our listeners, the round table here, get on the same page, the quicker we're all speaking the same language. And the quicker we all speak the same language and understand each other, the quicker we can pass ideas. And if you go, like I said in the beginning of the show, if you go over to LastChanceRadio.com, you can put your name and your email in there and shoot us a question if you'd like to. I will see them. I don't know when, but I will, I promise. Yeah, seriously, do me a favor. Go over to Last Chance Radio and just look it up and down. And also in YouTube, a lot of people don't watch a lot of YouTube, and they forget that there's a comment section down below. It's important that YouTube sees that there's comments. It's also extraordinarily important for me to staying on the air that you do the thumbs up thing, and also even more important is to subscribe, because I can't even begin to try and make back a couple of dollars to pay for this until I get 1,000 subscribers. So I hope you'll subscribe yourself and get a family member or a friend to subscribe as well, and listen. More important than anything, if nothing else, listen. Um, it's worth a moment of time to do the ground prep, I said, or laying out the previous intel, like I said, so that we're all on the same page. Everything will be, become distinctly familiar. Familiar in what way, you may ask? How about we just say for now, it seems to fit into the same Rico Russian mob type family box. What? The way this Genie energy operation is going down. People are getting paid off by giving them shares in the company. Netanyahu, and we're going to get into this in a second, Netanyahu took shares in Genie as part of his payoff for the Tripact. And if you haven't seen the Tripact and you're a listener or follower, and please, again, leave something down in the comments to point someone towards that. I'd appreciate it. And what you'll find out is that the Tripact deal is exactly like what's going on here that I'm going to tell you about now. All right. So I'm going to tell you to retell a story very briefly, and this is exactly what I was getting at. No eye rolling, please. It's important to do this so that the pattern begins to emerge before you. And that is the Tripact. And I've told you, but only because it fits into the story, and now it fits even more because it's repeating the pattern. Here are a few more random names for you. Rick Perry, Secretary, Energy, who now has a rabbi. If you don't believe me, because it sounds so far-fetched, pull up Daily Beast and just put in Perry, Rabbi. Poop, it'll pop right up there. Also entities you may not have heard of, like Opus Dei, which is like The Family. I don't know if you've seen this on Netflix or not yet, but if you go on Netflix, and it's worth just signing up and then quitting if you want, but it's worth going on and watching. I think it's 4 or 5 parts called The Family, and these people are like, you don't have to know about how anything works in the universe except Jesus. That's it. I'm not kidding. They're an extraordinarily far right, bordering on cultish fascism, and that is absolutely correct. I wrote that properly. Then reaching across the ideological spectrum and aisle, I definitely include some of those good Jews, as Pence likes to say. I've heard him say that a couple of times. Read that. They're good Jews according to people like Pence and Pompeo, because those two are, wow, they are something, I'll tell you. Let's go down here a little bit. Bing. Come on, let's go down a little bit. Boy, I love when that happens. Remember I told you I was still trying to learn about all this stuff? Here we go. Let's try this. It's the little things in life, isn't it? Bear with me, folks. I'm going to get this fixed right quick. I'm sorry for this. Bear with me. I have to, what I'm doing, just so you know, so I'm not leaving you out in the cold here while I'm doing this, is if I get off track of that a little bit, it will not continue to scroll with me. And if it won't keep scrolling with me, then we end up with the ability not to control it. But like I said, the good Jews, according to Pence and Pompeo, see, now it's fixed again. So let's see here. Throwing me off. The Long Island Shabbat House. And again, please read some of my other pieces. And there's also, and get together with some of the other people who are listening in here. If you're on Twitter, I'm hoping that a majority of the people that come and listen to me here come over and listen from Twitter. And because I've noticed that most of the people from Twitter are like, if you mention Facebook, they'll throw gasoline on you and light you on fire. But I'm joking, of course, but I've also noticed that not a lot of, use of YouTube, which I thought was interesting because, man, YouTube is a very powerful place to gather intel and information from, unbeknownst to the people that we sit around that table in order to defend against or protect our good people from. The Long Island Shabbat House is something that I've mentioned before. They're tied into these, what you would, you know how you think of the right wing, Pence, Pompeo, and the Opus Dei types as being apocalyptic and end times prophecy and all that kind of stuff. Well, these are the Jewish folks who believe in that same kind of thing, but from their own religious perspective. It's very strange, and I have no answers for you about how any of that works. I just know how it is. So the Long Island Shabbat House is where Blackstone, Kissinger, and there's a bunch of other names I can throw out here, but it's been a place where people have come to make deals, like between the Italians and the Jews, even the Chinese from Chinatown came out to the Shabbat House in Long Island. Just something I learned along the way back in the old days. In case you don't know that about me, I was a corporate investigator and also an executive protection security type person. Ran Ritz-Carlton Security out in Marina Del Rey. It's kind of been my background. I've done some other things too, but I do have a bit of a background in investigating things. So back to the Shabbat House here. The first Shabbatnik I found out of the Long Island House was, take a guess, no takers. I hope we're live. No, we're not. So we'll have to try this again. Excuse me. If anyone takes a shot at this one, well, you're not going to. It's Henry Kissinger, whom, by the way, has had, and as far as I know, still does keep Kushner. Actually, he knows the father. And I'm not sure if it's via the father or through the grandfather, but he's known the family for a long time. It seems like the one guy just doesn't go away. Imagine mixing Kushner with Henry Kissinger. Look, I was adopted. I wanted to tell you about this too. I started to get into it, and now I'm going to get to do that and get to know me a little bit better. I was born. I was talking about. Look, I was adopted. I was born in a Baptist hospital and given up by my birth mother. So that's my ice maker. They're not unloading magazines of bullets over there, so I could have a better life. That was her intent from all the information I could gather. I could get more information, but I chose to just let it be that the people who raised me are my parents, not the people who birth you are not your parents. The people who raise you are, in my opinion. Um, she did a good thing there, as adopted, raised by a Jewish family as a Jewish man. My point in telling you this, however, tonight is that because I think um, I'm going to give someone a pass on this show because they're Jewish. If you think I'm going to give someone a pass, in other words, why am I bringing up Kissinger or Kushner if I'm a Jew, right? Like I'm supposed to, if I'm an Irishman, I should let leprechauns hide out in my shoe boxes. Don't get me cussing, okay? Because I got a little bit of sailor in me as well. That doesn't happen here. It's never going to happen here. Um, and just so you know where I stand personally, and it is important that you do know that because it's natural to wonder what the guy is talking to you right now, what the guy who is talking to you right now has perhaps as some kind of an agenda. Well, here's my agenda. If you're a crappy Muslim, a crappy Catholic or Christian, or even a crappy Jew, it doesn't matter to me other than the fact that you are crappy. I hope this lets you know where I personally stand on things and how I'll be bringing you the news. I think it's important in these days of mis and disinformation. We know what people's potential subtleties are about, and when I say subtleties, what they may secretly be rooting for. For instance, a lot of people refer to the Shabbat house as Zionist. And that's an interesting word for me because, of course, I told you I was raised as a Jewish kid. So um, let's do that for a minute or three, so I can again tell you both my stance and what I believe something means. And these days, in this time, we see what's going on. You know, the Jews will not replace us at Charlottesville and all that nonsense. The only thing they should have done with those torches is pour some sterno over their own heads and drop the torch on their head like a hat. But in the meantime, um, what's this guy's intent? Based on the verbiage used today on social platforms and in other places, I would say that the panting, ever breaking news folks would love to have you believe that somehow a Zionist must be a bad thing. Well, here it is, folks. This is very simple. You can disagree with me and say, oh, no, it's about Israeli soldiers having this unbound right to shoot Palestinians, etc., etc. Okay, you can do that, and that's all fine. You have the right to your First Amendment. It's just probably not going to fly here, or not with me, anyways. Let's put it that way. But I ask you to at least listen out to my opinion and what my stance is on it, because I do want you to get to know me, because I feel like if you know me a little bit, then as we go through some of the news, as we learn and grow together, and that's really the part that's fun. And when I get the live part up, that's going to be really fun because I'll be able to look right over here and, I'll be able to see your comments and, what you're saying in the chat room and all that kind of stuff. And I'll be able to answer you directly. Um, but, we're not going to allow any abuse in there either. There will be some people in there who have hammers and wrenches to penny sock you and drag you out the door. Oh boy. I was talking about the ever panning news. Okay, so here it is, folks. Being a Zionist, based on the original definition, is somebody who wants to see Israel have its own state and country. Now, listen to me. A lot of people right now are using the term Zionist as a separate entity. In other words, the Zionist is somehow the real bad Jew. Remember, we were talking about Pence and Pompeo talking about the good Jew, right? That's the right wing Shabbatnik groups, okay? And I'm not going to paint people good and bad either. They have the right to believe whatever they want as long as they don't infringe on my rights or hurt anybody or anything else. They can believe that, there's pink. I was just thinking of the cow, the Devin Nunes cow. Anyways, they just want their own country. And In other words, a Zionist is somehow a bad Jew? I think not. The secret Jew behind the curtain, like Wizard of Oz, pulling all the levers, if you're actually listening, they will come to mind, hopefully based on what I am telling you, is that one of the dog whistles against Jews right now is to call them good Jews. They're the good Jews, right? They're the good Jews. A good American Jew, but they're a Zionist. That is bullshit, folks. I'm an American. If someone tells me that my allegiance stands with Israel over America, excuse me, they had better bring some friends to drag them home and put them to bed. I'm an American. I was born as a Cherokee Indian, an Irish-blooded human being. But this is not Nazi Germany. And we don't grade our society and the makeup of it by blood and soil. How many times we got to hear that? Blood and soil. I, of course, want Israel to have its own homeland. I'm not against the Palestinians having their own homeland, but that's for another time and another show. And we can get into that on one evening if you guys would like to. Like I said, go to the website and tell me what you'd like to talk about. If I'm not there yet, something you'd like to hear about, I'd be happy to go where you point, as long as it's worthy and worthwhile and worth everyone else's time as well. I want you to know that I lit a candle in my window going back a couple of months ago. I don't know if you remember. Was it? It was a holiday weekend. I can't remember which one it was, but we there it went around on Twitter. Light a candle, put it in your window, and then we started taking pictures of the candles in our windows and posting them on Twitter. And the idea being that if an immigrant was on the run fleeing from ICE, I wanted them to know that I would aid and abet them in hiding from ICE. And I'll tell you that right out here in the open, just like I am. I will aid and abet them. If you want to call it a crime, you call it a crime. You know what the SS Nazis said just before we hung them and shot them? I was following orders. That's what they said. I was following orders. If you do something so heinous as to take the life of another human being, so, if you want to kill me, I'm a 57-year-old guy. Okay, that's one thing. You might think I'm an enemy combatant, this, that, or the other thing, but shoot a 6-year-old kid just before you fall through that trap door, I'm going to say have a nice ride. Okay? A lot of good people, Catholics, Christians, Muslims, etc., hid people in Germany, in Austria, in Hungary, in Romania, in Russia during the times of the Nazis. Hid them from the Nazis under penalty of death. But you know what? They had something inside of them that said, what is my life worth if I am not willing to put my life on the line to save another human being who doesn't deserve to be abused in this manner, in this fashion? What's your life worth? What is the value that you place upon your own life? Now, if you're a parent, father, mother, sister, brother, etc., it brings other questions into the into the mix. But bottom line, I think that if you want to know your value as a human being, that's one of the questions that you should ask. Would you be willing to risk your life, quite literally? Have your head blown off for hiding another human being? If you're not willing to do that, there is a possibility you may need to leave the Jedi table, because we're very serious about this here. at least think about it if you're not sure one way or another. I would just ask you to question yourself. Just like so many good people hid Jews in Germany during the war, don't let these haters create a description of what is good and bad. The best way to find something out is to ask the person you most perhaps have that feeling or wondering about a question. Ask a Jew. Are you a Zionist now? They may be just as confused as the rest of the world on how to answer that. They may not know even what they're supposed to feel about it because it doesn't come up in their family or a million other reasons. It shouldn't be a thing. And that's all I have to really say about that for now. I thought of Forrest Gump when I was writing this. No wonder she was yelling at him all the time to run. Run, Forrest, run. It tends to work out that way, doesn't it? You may ask yourself, why did he just go through that long explanation of Jews? And why did he push so strong on that? There is a reason, and it does figure directly into our story tonight. And just in case you thought I left I-75 and drove off into a lake somewhere, the method and the reason fits is because of the people involved on multiple sides of the story. We've got Syrians, Kurds, Turks, Jews, Iranians, Iraqis, Egyptians, and yes, Yemenis. A disgrace that the United States, let alone, I'll leave the verbiage out of what I think of the Saudis, but I care about how we're looked at by the rest of the world. And right now, I can tell you the rest of the world is not looking at us with a high, very high yield return, so to speak. We very few years to go, a very long way down. I also wanted to tie in the Tripact. Okay, the Tripact is also, you can contact if you leave something down here and leave like your Twitter handle. This is a good place for you guys to come into the comments section and say, hey, hit me up over on Twitter at this, add David Man on Fire, that's me, and tell me what you think about something or ask me a question. And it's a good way to interface with people. But I do want to bring up the Tripact story because it's something I have covered, and there is a specific video for it out in the lobby of here on this channel. And you should definitely understand what it is because it's very important, and it was probably the most heinous thing that's happened yet, or probably will happen while Trump is in office. You'll find also my thoughts on the Kurds. There's a whole other video on the Kurds, and another video on the Tripact is one of my videos on this channel. The disgusting manner in which we have treated the Kurds at this point is part of the story, but I have to put it aside for the moment. If you want to see how I feel about the Kurds, I actually was in the field with them, and you can watch that video and see about what I think there. It's out there. In order to get where we're trying to go, however, to uncover the dirty deals being done, not so much behind our backs anymore as in front of our faces, how does the Tripact that I'm talking about fit into the story? Well, first of all, I have to tell you what the Tripact is, and as I do so, hopefully, I'm telling you this story well enough for you to see why it fits. To put it in an investigative term, it fits because it delineates a pattern of behavior. That's something you're going to probably hear me come back time and time again to say. Delineating a pattern of behavior. Look at killers and robbers and all those kind. If you look, delineating the pattern of behavior is one of the most important things to understand about catching somebody that you want to catch. Manhunter type stuff. Typically, a criminal who does one type of crime will continue on that path because it is the crime they understand and it is the crime they are most familiar with. So, what is the Tripact? Again, like I said, this is the Crib Notes version. Watch the Tripact video for more of the in-depth components of that. The Tripact, I am going to give you a breakdown of it here real briefly. The Tripact, and see, we haven't even gotten back to talking about all the people in Genie and why uh, why did Trump originally give the U.S. Embassy back to Jerusalem? Why? Maybe it's because someone told him in the future we're going to need that precedence. Remember we talked about precedence? Laying a precedent, setting a precedence, because he is going to have to come back and he's going to have to cover Genie energy behind because part of it is in the Golan Heights. And Trump has already said he is willing to absolutely recognize the Golan Heights in totality as an Israeli holding. The other thing many of you may not know, and then I'll come back here, but I want you to understand that this does all tie together where I'm going, and I just felt like I needed to come back here and show you that this stuff is tying in, and it does, and it ties in really well, and when you see it this well, it's like seeing your sneaker getting tied for the first time. I got a crazy imagination, don't I? Lovely. Anyways, so um, the Tripact is really nothing more than a shakedown, a mob like Brighton Beach, Russian 1992 Coney Island shakedown. But the Tripact originated somewhere in the mind of Kissinger, I believe, originally, and or perhaps in Kushner's mind. The way it played out was as follows. Kushner needed money, a bunch of money, because his family purchased the 666 building in New York City. This building was a money loser from day one, and it was never going to make money, folks. I don't know why or how somebody must have pulled one on them. That's the only thing I can think of. But when Trump came to power, the Kushners saw this as their way to get out of that debt. The 666 building was so far in debt that the Kushners were on the verge of literally having to just give it up, lose all their money invested, and hand it over and give it up. Well, somewhere, somehow, the idea, another mob-like Rico shakedown plan arose. Step one, tell MBS. We're talking about the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, that if he played along, he would get paid off in a big way. So, Mohammed bin Salman, being Mohammed bin Salman, the man with the bone saw, Khashoggi, went for it. So the administration, with Kushner, told MBS to blockade the Qataris. And they did. The Saudi Navy blocked the ports of entry for entrance into Qatar. MBS moved the Saudi Navy into place, began the blockade, negotiations began, and when they were over, the Qataris had purchased a 99-year lease of 10% of the 666 building, thus pulling the Kushners out of debt and default on 666. Now we hear the word Mossad and go, uh-oh. Which is a good idea for the most part. Because they're only going to be interested in something that interests them, and you don't want any of them interested in you. And for good reason. They are great at intelligence. I've trained with some of those gentlemen. They're just people, just like me and you, but they know exactly what they're doing, and they're not joking. You want to stay on their good side. Let's just put it that way. Intelligence gathering wanted to know more about the deal. In the meantime, MBS, bin Salman, has performed his crime at the behest of Kushner, Trump, and the administration at this point. And Kushner's gotten paid off, so the building is paid off, and now MBS wants his payoff. So what does MBS want? He wants access to nuclear construction, which leads to nuclear power. Of course, the Israelis would be going ape crap over this, and they did, quietly. So back in the United States, meanwhile, what was happening, and you can look back at Market Watch or Wall Street Journal, et cetera, and look up the General Electric separation of its nuclear construction unit. And it was sliced off of General Electric. But guess where it ended up? Guess who ended up owning the General Electric nuclear construction unit? That's right. That's right. And guess who got it for them? The same people, and I'm going off script here for a second. Bear with me. I want to lead you into something else that I know about. Also, that you'll learn about if you learn about the Tripact. And also, it's on Twitter. If you want to see the actual article that ties MBS to a 15-man hit team who were Saudi officials who went to Turkey, got a hold of Jamal Khashoggi, had him duped into coming into the Saudi embassy in Turkey, and cut him into pieces, quite literally, put him in different suitcases, carried him out to a car, different cars, and threw the suitcases away. Here's the thing you don't know. You may know that story, but you know what you don't know? You don't know that the 15-man hit team was trained in the United States, in the great state of Arkansas, at a special forces a private special forces training school that was under State Department contract at the time. I want you to think about that for a minute. People who cut Khashoggi into little itsy bitsy pieces of sushi came to the United States, went through a special forces school, run under contract by the State Department, left here, took a couple more flights, ended up in Turkey at the Saudi embassy, and killed Khashoggi. I'll leave that to you to think about. So, MBS gets the nuclear construction deal. The GE when GE magically decides to put GE Nuke on the market, MBS scoops it up behind closed doors. Whether it's renamed or anything makes no difference whatsoever. This is what happened. MBS got GE Nuke's component company, now belongs to MBS, is a sovereign component of the kingdom. And by this time, the Israelis have simply have to get in line and said, we'd like to put our order in ourselves, Mr. Kushner. Kushner and everybody else go, what do you mean put your order in? What do you want? You got nothing to do with this. Well, this is how inept these morons are, okay? Sorry, but they think they're not going to find out about it and come back and go, well, we're not going to go to war with the United States. We're not going to kill a bunch of people either. But we can make life mighty uncomfortable for you. We could just come over and, like, maybe buy out the New York Times again and put up there every single day about everything from Khashoggi to GE nukes to every day. They can make their life really uncomfortable. So I veered off course a little bit, but I wanted you to know that about the Special Ops Training School out there in Arkansas. Really nasty. And the fact that we have our fingerprints on it as well is another reason to take a long hot shower. Well, what do the Israelis want? Simple. They want a written guarantee that the United States, with the outward and public help of Saudi Arabia, that if the Iranians get hostile with the Israelis, they will come forward and they will do it publicly and they will do it directly. It won't be a behind the scenes deal. Plus, Netanyahu and several of, and this is where we're going very soon. Plus, and this is going to be the fun part, several of his buddies, Israeli businessmen, players, all get a slice of the Genie energy pie. Following? You getting me so far? This is Last Chance Radio. This is the end of part one. That's right. This is a two-part. Don't be mad at me. Don't start throwing things and cussing at me. It's worth it because part two is gonna blow your socks off. I'm hoping to get it out tomorrow. If it's not out tomorrow, it'll be out the day after, so it won't be that long a wait. So like I said, I really do. I am grateful. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you listening to me, and I'm looking forward to bringing you more stories about the things that we're not hearing about. And I hope you'll. Again, let me apologize for the technical thing. As I get better at this, right now I'm running this as a one-man show. If I showed you the camera here, you guys would freak. But anyways, yeah, I should have about 3 more people and a little bit more money, but that's all right. Bringing you guys the truth is way more important to me than anything else. And part 2 of this is coming up within 1 day, perhaps 2. And for now, this is David Benjamin coming to you from Last Chance Radio. Thank you for tuning in and have a great night.